Love this podcast? Support us by leaving us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. Hit the link in the episode description to support us now. Thanks for listening and enjoy. Yo, Nicole.
Yo, Rolando.
How many kids do you think is too many?
For me or for a person in general?
Let's start off with you.
Probably more than... I could handle maybe 3.
Oh, 3?
Yeah, well, now that I'm a aunt to 2 lovely little babies, if there was one more added, I'd probably be okay, but anymore I would not be.
I think my limit is 2. Personally, I want 1.
But I mean, you're a sibling. Don't you like having a sibling?
I don't think me and my siblings are the poster child of siblings. You know what I mean? Like,
this is true. Yeah, I mean, I enjoy having a sibling. So
my sibling made me cry at my wedding. So, like, you know what I mean? And not in like,
maybe I should have asked.
Yeah,
that.
not even like in a nice way of just like, oh, this is so sweet. It was more like, oh my god, why are you doing this to me?
Well, okay, maybe yeah. I think 3 is definitely my limit, but I don't know. My father was a one of 11.
Yeah, Eddie is Jesus. He was almost that dozen.
He was almost that dozen. Actually, fun fact, didn't know that. I only thought he had 9 siblings. There were 2 that were kept secret from the family.
Oh, interesting. So there's a rumor that my grandma told me that I may have half siblings somewhere.
Wow, look at that.
Who knows? But that was
look
just
at all
a
this
rumor.
chisme that's coming out in this episode.
Know.
How unexpected.
The family tea. But no, I don't know if I could afford more than 1 child.
Oh, well, afford a child. I can't afford. I could barely afford my cat.
That's true. I could barely afford my puppy. You know what I mean? So you add another living person there. But I don't know. But all right, now other people, right? Like the average family, how many kids do you think they should have?
In this economy, probably just 2. I mean, it depends on their income, of course.
Right.
So.
I mean, we're talking like the median household income of like, I don't even know, $80,000, I guess.
Yes, but my grandmother, you know, she was raised on a farm in Cuba, and she was like one of 8 or 9 siblings.
Well, yeah, but you needed the manpower in farms. Well,
she had to stop going to school to take care of the rest of her family.
Yeah. That's how it used to be back then.
Yeah. You know, it was way more in vogue to just have a shitload of kids back then.
It was a Christian way.
It was, yeah. Keep, like, what else was a woman to do but just keep producing babies? That was her duty.
That was.
Yeah.
So, I guess we just really got into it, but.
Yeah, we did.
We are.
And that's the episode. But yeah, this week we're talking about something that I didn't think we'd cover, and yet here we are. We're discussing 3 film adaptations of Cheaper by the Dozen. The only thing that these movies have in common is that
their
parents
title.
have 12 kids. Yeah, and the title. And the title, yeah. The 1950 film, the 2002 film, and the new Disney Plus 2022 film.
Yeah.
So let's do it. I'm Nicole.
And I'm Rolando.
And this is Remakes, Reboots, and Revivals.
An original podcast
about
unoriginality.
I feel like we don't even need to like talk right now because we just did so much of it.
Right. No, it's true. It is true. But I will talk. I want to remind all our listeners to please go and rate us on whatever app you're listening to. It will help other listeners find us. And you know what? I think Nicole and I have found our groove. And you know what? It is high time you let other people know. I'm sorry. I'm sounding a little condescending and mean right now, but that's because I've had enough. I want to see more reviews, guys. So let's step our pussies up.
Yeah.
I think that was a good pitch, right?
I think that was really motivating. If I was a listener, I so wouldn't turn off this episode.
Well, I don't know. They heard us just talk about like children in the cold open, so
this is true. Yeah, we were spewing our opinions all over there, so we might have lost them already.
We're learning our metrics when they come in, you know.
Yeah. So fun fact. I've never seen any version of Cheaper by the Dozen until like a couple days ago.
Really? Oh, okay.
Really? Yeah.
I saw the Hillary Duff one.
Yeah, that's funny. I'm so glad you called it that because when it came out, we were in high school, so the only person in the movie that we cared about was like
Hilary Duff.
if it wasn't Hilary Duff, it was the guy from Smallville.
Yeah, exactly. Tom Welling.
There you go.
Yeah.
But like it was just one that always escaped me. So
yeah, I mean, I think I saw it because my friend Amanda, she was my bridal party, was a huge fan of it. She a huge fan of the original. She loved this film and Yours, Mine, and Ours, right? Like those are both remakes that came out around the same era. And they were both like I think films that came out originally in the same time period, more or less. Like maybe give or plus 10 years, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. I think, yeah. And actually, the original Yours, Mine, and Ours came out a full 18 years after the original Cheaper by the Dozen.
Oh, really? It was like that? Okay, I thought it was like within the same timeline.
No, but the Brady Bunch came out kind of somewhat after Yours, Mine, and Ours. So I think, American media just has a thing for like big/blended families.
I don't know why. In our economies,
right?
I just... Wendy has
in our culture.
Like
in our culture, I'm sorry.
I was saying economies because like I don't know if the economy was ever good enough to support more than 5 children. Like I just
seriously, yeah. Well, that's also a really interesting point that we're gonna have to bring up when we get into these 3 movies. But so funny me, I love old movies, but I hadn't even seen the original 1951. It was just like I don't know. I'm actually, other than the Brady Bunch, and we did a whole episode about the Brady Bunch, I'm not into big family movies, so I hadn't seen these. I haven't seen any version of Yours, Mine, and Ours or any films like that. Right. So, but when I saw it and it was an excuse to see the original film, I was like, oh, I jumped on that. And the original Cheaper by the... I did, yeah. I was just like, we're doing this.
And the movie
I wasn't that enthusiastic, yeah.
Okay, I'll have to see.
But, this film came out in 1950, and I've talked about the year 1950 before on the podcast. I just want to state one more time that 2 of the greatest American films ever came out in 1950, All About Eve and Sunset Boulevard. So this was a fantastic year for movies. And
you say that about every year, though.
No, I think I've said that some years were like just
That's
okay.
True. You have said some years are just okay.
Yeah. So thank you. But yeah, this was one of the movies that came out in 1950. Cheaper by the Dozen. Did you know it was based not only on a book but an autobiography?
Yes.
Autobiography. I said it right. Okay, good. I don't know why I thought I said it wrong. Well,
it's
so
autobiographical.
Actually, it's autobiographical. So Frank Bunker Gilbreth Jr. and Ernestine Gilbreth Carey in 1948 decided to make a novelization based on their lives. And it's pretty much recounting what it was like growing up in a household of 12 children. And their story is actually kind of just one of, pretty middle class, maybe upper middle class white privilege in this country. So, it's like it's not like a tale of struggle. It's not, about how they had to they were forced out of their homes or anything like that. It's actually just a bunch of fun stories of them being raised by their super smart and put together parents. That's all I could really say.
Yeah, I would.
They were both efficiency experts, which is a fucking thing. Frank Bunker Gilbreth and Lillian Moeller Gilbreth. And yeah, who also Lillian Moeller Gilbreth, like I actually, after the movie, because we're going to talk about how it ends, but after that ending, I was like, wait a minute, who is she? She was a psychologist. She was an industrial engineer. She was an early pioneer in applying psychology to time and motion studies.
Yeah.
And she's just like a crazy badass lady.
Groundbreaking stuff. I had no idea what they kept like referring to what they do, but I'm just like, what the fuck does that? What is that?
Oh yeah, right. Seriously.
What like I understand the need for efficiency because Americans have this constant need of just like not slowing down ever. But how do you apply psychology to that?
Yeah. No, usually when you apply words like time and space or you put them together, in this case, time and motion, that's when I start tuning out because I'm like, I'm not going to understand this.
Yeah.
So I just don't listen. Which is probably really counterproductive of me. But
I mean, I should listen because, like, Lord knows I'm always late to things. But I feel like I have a valid excuse as to why I'm usually late to things. Eddie, who is
I was
going to
say, don't you usually blame Eddie?
I usually do.
That's why you were early today in sending your Zoom invite.
That's
actually.
exactly 100% right. Since he's not here, it was just like I am early.
Yeah, I wasn't even prepared. So what is Cheaper by the Dozen essentially about? Like I said, it's a semi-autobiographical novel written by two of the oldest children, and they kind of just retell in like vignettes, stories that they had that were really funny about growing up in a household of 12. So these two
That's
parents.
subjective funny.
Yes, that was their intent on writing it.
I mean, I guess I it's so hard. Like me. I saw these. I didn't see these in reverse order, but I rewatched. I guess I watched for the podcast. I watched them in reverse order, so I knew middle and then the original as I usually do. And I don't know. At a certain point, I'm just like, what? What is funny about this life? This sounds like a miserable existence, in my opinion. In all three versions.
In all versions. Spoiler alert for this episode. Yeah, I mean, funny is definitely a subjective word, but I think there is something that's like alluring about what must it be like to live in a house of 12. And it's interesting because all of these films paint very different images. And very different pictures of what it must be like to live in that house. But they all take place in different times, right? Even though Cheaper by the Dozen came out in 1950, it depicts, when like Frank and Ernestine were younger, which was in the 20s.
Right.
So this is 1920s America, which was very different. And I don't know about that economy, but I'm sure it was way easier.
But the Roaring 20s.
A couple of scenes. It was the Roaring 20s. And they were efficiency experts, so I'm sure they made good money. He was being invited to like speak, overseas. So he was
to
in
two places in London and Frankfurt,
Prague. Yeah. So that's pretty much what this movie is. Actually, it's a pretty. I was reading a little bit about what the book, like some of the stories that they would say, and it was like, oh, those all in the movie. So the book was a hit when it came out in 1948, and immediately got optioned by 20th Century Fox and turned into a movie.
Yeah,
it came out in 1950, directed by Walter Lang, who I don't actually like have much to say as a filmmaker. He's not like someone who I'm like, oh, you should watch more movies by him.
Right.
I think probably the other most famous movie that he did was State Fair in 1945, which is a Rodgers and Hammerstein original movie musical.
Oh, I've never heard of it. Okay.
And actually, The King and I, Rodgers and Hammerstein film adaptation. So
the one with Rita Moreno.
Yes, the one with Rita Moreno. Yeah, also Yul Brynner and Deborah Kerr as the leading roles, but yes, with Rita Moreno. This film stars Clifton Webb as Frank Bunker Gilbreth Sr. and Myrna Loy as Miss Lillian Gilbreth, the mother, who at that time, she was a huge matinee idol in the 30s. Stars one of my absolute favorite films, The Thin Man. Mm-hmm. And was not that old by 1950 standards. Now, of course, she wasn't dominating the box offices and seen the same way. But a lot of her fellow actresses were like, don't take this role. Don't be a mom, because then there's no hope for the rest of us. Not only that, but there's no hope for the rest of us, right?
Well,
you have to do what the guys are doing and still take the younger roles. And she was like, I kind of want to play this role, and I kind of think I could do it okay. And she said she took a lot of heat for it, and she took it. And I think she did a really great job. I think Myrna Loy, first of all, what a name.
Yeah,
Myrna and Myrna Loy. That's a fantastic name. Next cat I get is going to be called Myrna Loy.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, so Myrna Loy. Love her in this movie. And Clifton Webb, who his most other famous role up until that point was that he was Mr. Belvedere.
Oh,
which is
I've never seen Mr. Belvedere, but I know of Mr. Belvedere.
Yeah, Belvedere. You got it right. Yeah,
it's a V.
Yeah, I'm talking about the 1940s Mr. Belvedere. I think they brought it like a TV version of Mr. Belvedere back.
I think that's the version that I've heard of. I didn't know it was something prior.
Yeah, there were 3 films that Clifton Webb was in, and that's what kind of got him to be famous in this time frame. It's Sitting Pretty, Mr. Belvedere Goes to College, and Mr. Belvedere Rings the Bell.
That's a mouthful.
What a title, right?
Yeah.
And that's, yeah. So I think Mr. Belvedere and this role is kind of what Clifton Webb will be remembered for. The other big actor in Cheaper by the Dozen is Jeannie Crane, who plays the eldest daughter. And at that point, I think she was 28 and she didn't really want to play a teenager, but she just took one last film role. And, this was a big hit when it came out. I mean, obviously it's been remade 2 times. Everyone knows at least the title Cheaper by the Dozen.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like in the same vein as other kind of feel good family movies of this time. Like I'm thinking Meet Me in St. Louis from 1944. To an extent, even the original 40s version of Little Women, not the Katharine Hepburn one, the color one with Elizabeth Taylor.
Okay, I remember that one. Yeah.
This is post-war America. It's still kind of like recovering, and they're kind of putting these ideals of family back into to the limelight and trying to shine more of a light on that and really like instill family values. And at the beginning of the 1950s, which is just known for being a very conformist, consumerist, and nuclear family kind of era.
That's true.
So yeah, so it's almost, it's perfect that it came out in 1950. I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
What were you gonna say?
No, I was going to say, funny you should mention Meet Me in St. Louis, because the exterior to the house in Montclair that they use is from Meet Me in St. Louis.
That is right. Look at you.
I know facts every now and then.
Yeah, which is interesting because they were done by 2 different studios. So I guess, they were like, we don't have a proper house on our lot. MGM, you got to lend us that house.
And they rented it out, yeah.
And they rented it out, yeah.
That's exactly what happened.
Wow, look at that. So, all right, so what did you think of this film?
I felt like nothing happened. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there was no plot. It was just like you mentioned, it was like a series of vignettes where we got to see this, the daughter, the eldest daughter is the narrator. So we just get to see kind of what it's like life from her point of view. And I guess we kind of see her not rebelling as much as just like growing up into becoming a woman, right? Wanting to wear makeup, wanting to go to prom, wanting to date, and her father's struggle with her growing up. I don't know. I mean, it was cute. I didn't hate the movie. I just think I was just wondering, it's like, there's nothing happening. I don't like what, I don't know. It just felt, it was just a story, I guess, that I was watching. Otherwise it was like, eh.
You know what? I actually completely agree with you. There is no real plot to this movie. This is what I would qualify as a hangout movie, where it's just kind of like a bunch of things happen and there's no really overarching plot to guide us through this film. And we get to know a bunch of different characters and we go from scene to scene, just kind of like hanging out with them, and that's it. Right. And the reason why this movie is kind of beloved is because some people, I think, must really enjoy hanging out with these characters. This was my first time seeing it. I had no expectations going into this movie. I didn't know, one, that it was a true story. I didn't know that it was going to be set in the 20s. I literally knew nothing.
Right.
Alicia Malone kind of gave me a couple of minutes of putting into context when I saw it on Turner Classic Movies, but that was it. And I must say, spoiler alert for this episode, but this was my favorite of the 3. Surprise, surprise.
Okay.
I think that this film...
Spoiler indeed. I won't disagree with you, though.
I'm so glad. I think this film actually did the best job at kind of showing how you have to run a house of 12. And it didn't give themselves anything that was unrealistic, probably because it's based on a true story. But like a lot of the kids are super, super young. And then a lot of them are much like their ages range are so vast in between. The eldest is 20. The youngest is 2. And not even like there's still one unborn halfway through the film. And they have to run it kind of like a democracy. When they have family meetings, it's like a court, and like you have to be recognized by the chairman and like by the judge and stuff, and everything needs to be put into the vote. Which
I thought was adorable.
I was like, this seems like a bit much, but that's also like how people get their voices heard and how you maintain order and all this stuff. But then I also liked that there were like, even though it was like this well-maintained house, that gave me, of course, because I saw Sound of Music first, Sound of Music vibes, where everyone was like, like, oh, we're calling you and you have to stand in position and all that stuff. There also are like terrible musicians. Like he just doesn't want to hear that his kids can't play music.
Right.
They're like not that great at everything, and they're also really, really goofy. They're not the coolest. They're awkward and don't know anything about like...
They're the definition, they're quintessential normal children.
Yes.
Like, you know, like usually films have this. In film, we either see they're either great or terrible. There's no in the middle, right? Where most of us live. I think when we recorded with Mackenzie, right? She mentioned like the extremes of Euphoria and Glee, and like how most of us really fall in the middle, where we're just existing in these worlds of extremes. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I would also say that I think that we were able to really get a sense of some of the children better in this film. There's really 11, because again the 12th is a newborn, but there's a bunch that are just kind of like props because they're so young and they can't have these personalities that shine through quite yet for the movie's sake. So really there's only like 7 we get to know, and yet we are like, the top is the oldest sister, obviously, but you even get a really good sense of who the second youngest is, the oldest boy, and a couple of the other boys. And they all have like their little scenes and these little things that they get to work out with their parents. Like 2 of the boys really want a dog and they're pushing for the dog. Like, oh, if we get a cheaper rug, we could get a dog.
What a world. $5 dog. You know?
Right? The 20s. We're in the 20s too. And it's like,
500 for like
seriously
a sick dog, you know?
Yeah. You want to pay $5 and, you know, like you're going to pretty much steal him off the street or something.
Yeah, the only child we didn't really see much of was Mary, and that is because in real life Mary was not alive. So
that's right. Yes.
The producers, I guess, decided we'll keep her alive in spirit, kind of. So like,
yes,
you were to be seen but not heard, kind of.
Exactly.
Which is kind of oddly creepy, knowing that fact. You know what I mean? I don't know. It's just weird.
I wonder how the family felt watching it and being like, the ghost of Mary is with them, but she doesn't speak. She's just there in the background. It's like, is that what it's like? She's always with us. There's Martha, who the tonsillitis bit was so random, and I think there was way too much time on that thing, but in the end it ended up being rewarding because Martha was like rubbing in all of her siblings' faces how she could eat this big yummy breakfast because she didn't have to get her tonsils removed,
and then they operate her because the doctor,
and then they operate on her.
The doctor was just like, I don't want to have to put up with this again, so like, yeah, I don't care, she ate.
Well, no, because they were also like, you have so many kids, I can't tell them apart.
I mean, that's also true. That was also hilarious.
Yeah,
for some reason the father was trying to film it so he could like berate the doctors, like, oh, these are all your inefficiencies. Which
exactly,
I guess was kind of where we got like a real firm sense of what it means to be an efficiency expert.
Yeah, you really have to think of things at every angle and utilize your time well and all this stuff. Now, the father, right? And how far he takes this efficiency, because Myrna Loy's portrayal of the mother, she's the reason and she's the understanding, but he's the strict, efficient patriarch of the family. What did you think about Clifton Webb's performance as the father?
Oh, it was endearing, I guess is the word I would use.
Yeah.
Even when he was, for example, like, really hard on his daughter, he wanted to be a Jezebel, basically is what he said to her, right? It never came off, despite the fact that he easily should have come off as really, like, I don't know, patronizing, machismo, you know, kind of archaic, but I guess he played it with there was like a sweetness in the way he played it, where like he ended up giving in, and like I don't know, it never felt, I don't know, I never ended up hating him, despite the fact that like I felt like when he was talking to her about like the way girls dress, it kind of did seem a little vile and a very, very much, you know, a symptom of its times, you know, but it never, you know, and then like he followed her, he went with her on the date to the prom and stuff, but then he ends up like dancing with the girls. I don't know, it was cute. I thought he was endearing. I liked it. I
think I see what you're saying, and I thought his performance was like, you know, father who wasn't ready to accept that his little girl is all grown up, you know, and like he's like half serious about like all the things he's saying, but you know deep down inside that he doesn't really take any pleasure at like, you know, having these discussions with her or whatever, and that's why he so easily gives in. There's actually this cute little scene in the beginning because they moved from Rhode Island to Montclair, New Jersey.
Montclair,
right
New
in the beginning
Jersey.
of the film. And they have to like pull over, and he has to lift the hood up and do something in the car, and one of the kids decides to pull a prank on him, and it beeps the horn really loud, and the father hits his head on the hood, and he's like, who did that? What's the meaning of this? Come out here. And he was like gonna spank him. Myrna Loy just starts like laughing it off, and then he's like, yeah, you know what, like that was actually a pretty good joke. I commend you, son, for the good joke. Something like that.
Right.
And that right there is like a good balance of who that father ended up being. And all of these scenes in these vignettes in this movie pretty much like, you know, show us all of these different moments where that gets brought out, especially with his eldest daughter and his conflicts there, or just with the tonsillitis, or going to the school's principal and like demanding that his kids be put in the proper grades because of their intellect, all this stuff.
Yeah.
You know, so where this film was going,
borderline Karen, you know?
Tone wise. Oh, what?
Oh, I said he was like a borderline Karen. Can't hear me?
What's the matter, Dex? I can't hear you. One more time?
Borderline Karen?
I heard that. Borderline Karen. Okay.
Thank you. I'm going to do a clap, clap, clap here.
Yeah. Who's a borderline Karen?
The father.
Karen can apply to a man, I guess?
I think they're called Chads.
Chad's okay. Yeah. I don't know.
I could be mistaken on that. I could have saw like a male Karen, whatever.
Yeah.
Gender, you know.
There should be a male equivalent. It's
I'm sure there is. I just don't know it.
Yeah. Well, but with the way that this movie was going and the tone and everything, did you expect that ending to happen?
No. Oh, yeah. Especially seeing these in the reverse order, right?
Yeah.
Talk about a twist. Okay, so spoiler, guys, if you haven't seen this movie from the 1950s, or 1950 actually, yeah, the dad dies. He has a heart attack while he's on his way to go to, I think, London or Prague, right?
Yeah.
He's on his way to do one of those trips. He has a heart attack. They'd been hinting at his heart condition throughout the entire film. I just didn't know there was going to be a payoff, might be the wrong word, but there was a payoff. He dies at the end. And the family, and this all happens in like 3 minutes. They had to kind of figure out, like, as a family, what do we do next? Do we move in with grandmama? I think in California they mentioned. Or do we, you know, make some adjustments, fire the nanny or the housemaid or whatever, and just stay here? And the family as a unit decides we're going to try our best to, like, stay here in Montclair and make it work. And it kind of ends like that. Kind of felt abrupt. I was doing my research to see, it's like, did the actor die like while they were filming and they didn't have an ending? This is what happened. But I think
this is what happened in real life.
That's what I'm going to say. Is like, yeah, that's what happened in real life. So yeah.
Well, when it ended for me, and they went on to say all those things about Lillian Moeller, I immediately looked her up because I'm like, they're talking about her like as if the 1915 audience knows who she is.
Yes.
And she was alive during when this film came out. She died in 1972, so she was a name that people must have been familiar with. So that ending actually was more so like, oh, this is like something that feels lost in time, at least. I don't know, maybe a lot of people know about her and I'm the ignorant one, but
I mean, she mentioned that she would become a woman of the year or something, right?
Yes.
And like the ending monologue from the narration.
Yes, and like she went on to do this and that and like carry on his legacy and all this crazy shit, you know. So it was kind of like telling like a 1915 audience, and that's how she became the woman that you all know today, kind of like tone. But it was interesting because when I watched it and it's Myrna Loy, and they have the whole score, and she walks up the stairs and she looks at the picture that he took, and you see the family there. I was like, this is actually working for me emotionally.
Yeah.
You know, like I didn't cry, but I was like, I feel what they want me to feel.
Yeah. You feel, you feel the loss. Although I feel like the family did handle it a little bit less emotionally than I would have.
Well, they were efficient.
Yeah.
They just
I guess that's what it is. Bury those feelings. We had to move on. This is what Dad would want.
Let's just skip all over that. It's not efficient enough. Let's get right to it. But that's the thing too. This movie is tight. It's like an hour and a half. It's in and it's out,
which I appreciate.
Yeah, actually, I was just like, oh, they're it's like, I hate to keep making the same joke here, but they're wasting no time. They're making a really efficient movie.
Which is good, because your boy here has no time anymore between watching. We had to watch 3 movies, guys. I'm just like, okay, this was the shortest. It has my vote as my favorite.
Yeah, actually, so this was the film that I saw second. This was not the first film I watched.
Oh, which one did you see first?
The 2002 version.
Oh, you saw the Hilary Duff. I keep saying Hillary. It's Steve Martin's movie and Helen
it's-
Hunt, but I just
It's
remember
not Bonnie Hunt.
shit. I was literally just telling Eddie this morning. It's just like because I asked, are Helen Hunt and Bonnie Hunt related? They are not. I looked it up.
They're not. No,
They are not. But they do. I don't know. I confused them a lot growing up.
Yeah,
Bonnie
I could see
Hunt.
that. I could see that.
Good. I'm glad that you're not accusing me of face blindness here.
No. Yeah, this was actually Cheaper by the Dozen came out in 2003. I keep saying 2002. I don't know why, but I guess it doesn't matter.
Probably when the marketing blitz happened. Oh wait, you weren't a Disney Channel girl.
No, that's also why I probably didn't see this film.
I don't think it was because this is a Fox movie. But I feel like Hilary Duff I think got a lot of push because she was like a growing star for the Disney Channel.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. After I saw the Cheaper by the Dozen 2003 version, which I saw. I can't believe that I decided to watch that first.
yeah, I'm
but,
curious. What made you do that?
I was in bed and I wasn't tired. And I was just like, why not? It's on Disney Plus. It's short. This isn't a movie I should see in like my big TV and my surround sound.
Wait, was it short? Isn't it just as long? I don't know. It felt long.
It's 99 minutes.
Oh wow!
Which is still
it is
kind of
short. It felt
Yeah.
longer.
The original Cheaper by the Dozen, I think, is by far the shortest, but this is like the middle.
Yeah,
This
no.
It's middle all across the board. It did feel longer. I agree. It felt longer. So 2003, do you remember who you were in 2003?
I don't even remember how old I was in 2003. Do the math, I guess. Minus 11 years.
I was 15, so you must have been
16.
I turned 15,
I guess
14
I was
going on 15.
16 maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. I was still in high school, right? Junior, so lots of pot smoking. I don't know. Like I was hanging out this was actually the year I met my friend Amanda, and Cheaper by the Dozen was one of her favorite movies. So I think we went to see it in the theater, and I remember saying it's just like, what a piece of garbage. I think that's exactly what I came out saying. It's just like, oh my god, oh what a piece of garbage. But I stayed throughout the whole movie. Right? I didn't walk out. I think I might have been high when I saw this movie.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
So I was 14 going on 15, but I was already like in love with old movies. So I wasn't watching Disney Channel like I've said on this podcast before, but I was actively going to the movie theater like every week, and I remember seeing the movies like Kill Bill, and I remember seeing
Kill Bill.
How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days. I remember seeing Holes because I read that book in high school and I really wanted to see it.
I wanted to see Holes too, but I didn't see it.
Yeah. Holes was, I remember, being pretty good.
Yeah. I
So.
think that's what critics said also.
Yes.
Yeah, and I wanted to see what the hype was about. Plus,
They
I was a
did.
fan of Shia
Yeah.
LaBeouf because of Even Stevens.
There you go. And I remember seeing The Lord of the Rings, The Return of the Rings, and just like thinking it was over for about an hour.
Right.
Just wanting to leave my seat. I didn't see this movie though. Oddly enough, I saw the Pink Panther remake when it came out with Steve Martin. He was in a lot of like these family movies in the early 2000s.
Yeah,
but this one I didn't see.
Yeah, that's right. Because I'd known him. Oh, wait. I was about to say the Naked Gun series, but that's not him. No, wait. No, that wasn't him. That's Leslie Nielsen.
Yes, that is Leslie Nielsen. Steve Martin is like the jerk.
I know. Yeah,
from
yeah.
1979
We've
and-
seen Steve
okay.
Martin's work here.
Yeah.
Like twice already.
I'm a huge Steve Martin fan.
I too
in
liked-
terms of, his comedy really works for me.
I mean, the
like,
jerk
especially
is hilarious.
The Jerk is hilarious, but like even when he's just like delivering jokes at a talk show or something, he used to have this persona where he was just like a stuck-up asshole. Not so much anymore. But I kind of like admire his delivery, and I'm also too. My comedy is that I'm a stuck-up asshole.
Did you like him in Only Murders in the Building?
Yes. Oh, I mean, the moment it began, like the guy stopped him on the street and was like, "Oh, my dad loved you." Character. Oh yeah, he died. Yeah, they just keeps going on and on about how his dad died.
Yeah.
Just Steve Martin's just uncomfortably sitting there. I'm like, I love this guy. Like, this is my humor.
I was so glad that he got like a nice like new wind to his career here with the show, because the show was so fabulous. And
Yeah, it was good.
I was
Yeah.
remembering, it's just like, God, because he hit such a like down when he did like the Pink Panther series. I know it got a sequel, and I know technically
Yeah.
Cheaper by the Dozen got a sequel too, but it's like, you were the jerk, man. You know?
You know, it's interesting because when you really look at Steve Martin's film career, he actually had, I feel like, way more downs than he had ups.
Ooh.
When you think of like, all right, tell me, what do you think of when you think of a Steve Martin film?
Roxanne, because we just saw it.
We just covered it. But I think his legacy isn't necessarily his films, is my point.
Oh, you think it's a stand-up?
I think it's just him in general, like, you know, his persona and stuff. And most of the time he does kind of just play himself in a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
But you know, other than The Jerk and Dirty Rotten Scoundrels, which I think, and Planes, Trains, and Automobiles.
Dirty Rotten Scoundrels, that's right. That was actually, he was good. He was really good in that, I thought.
Oh, I think that movie is fantastic. You know, other than those movies, he was in a lot of failures. And when I say failures, I mean like box office flops and more so like movies that people just kind of forgot about.
Right.
And that's how I'm categorizing failure. I'm not saying I
Okay.
think these movies are failures.
Okay.
But I mean, Dead Men Don't Wear Plaid, The Man with Two Brains, Pennies from Heaven, actually, which is a really interesting musical. He made like so many movies that people just weren't a fan of. And in the 2000s, he kind of had this comeback when he did Cheaper by the Dozen. Then he did Bringing Down the House. He did the Pink Panther movies, which, you know, got him a sequel. He was in Baby Mama, which was actually really, I enjoyed his performance in Baby Mama. But Baby Mama's not even that great a movie.
Wait, that's the one with Tina Fey and Amy Poehler?
Yes.
Oh, I don't remember him in that movie.
He's her boss.
Oh.
And he's like a new age guy, and he's like really pretentious.
I do love
He does pretentious really well.
I do love a good Tina Fey, Steve Martin. They've been, because they were in an episode of 30 Rock that was great. Only Murders in the Building was another instance where they have a good dynamic. They could play off each other very well and stuff. So I don't remember him in that
yeah.
movie.
Yeah, no, he does play. They have like same kind of energies, comedic energies, you know. Like it was funny too because Tina Fey played pretentious in Only Murders in the Building. She was kind of doing like her Steve Martin shtick with him, which was great. So I think that's why I like Steve Martin. So I was going into this movie with like high, like, oh, Steve Martin's gonna make me laugh,
Right.
expectations, and okay, spoiler alert. This is my least favorite of the three films.
Okay, I'm in agreement with you on this one. We're so in sync at the moment.
We're in sync on this one.
This
This movie kind of didn't work for me in a lot of ways. I'm gonna kind of have to take it apart because there's not much that works.
Okay, go for it. Let's try to keep this short because
Let's try and keep it short. Yeah, because we're kind of going off on random things. Let's focus on the movies. First thing that doesn't work. He's a college football coach.
Yes.
Okay, in what worlds would Steve Martin be a college football coach?
that actually doesn't bother me as much. I think what bothered me is why can't he not afford a nanny? He's now like a D1 head coach. It's just like, you can afford a nanny, man. Like, you can't.
This is true. Yeah. Well, Steve Martin's whole shtick is that he can't even like dance without being awkward and like he thinks he's cool and stuff. But I don't know. So anyway, for me, I'm like, I don't buy you as a college football coach. He's got his wife who's not even there for 85% of the fucking movie. Right.
I heard
so
that they
this
don't
is
get
really
along. They didn't get along on set.
Bonnie Hunt and Steve Martin. Really? Is that why?
I made that up just now, but it sounded plausible,
Oh.
right?
I was gonna be like, they wrote the script
Like-
around that. What?
Let's start
Why did they
the
cast
rumor.
them?
That's a good point.
Did you hear that, T? Yeah, I mean, I feel like what worked so well about the 1950 one was the two of them, and the balance that they provided. And in this one, he's trying to perform a balancing act without her, and that's like what's the movie supposed to be going for,
Right.
But it just doesn't. It's trying to do too much. Okay. Next problem I have is that they don't establish any real relationships that he has with his children in order to have an arc. And my biggest problem is with the Tom Welling one, which is Charlie Baker.
Okay.
First of all, that Hilary Duff movie, she's just fucking there. I mean, she
It's
doesn't
true.
have any big scenes.
She just wears the green
She's
makeup.
literally
at one point,
just there.
helps
Yeah.
her mom pick out an outfit. She was.
Yeah.
But she was shown so much in the commercials.
So, she's a huge selling point for this movie, and she has like 5 lines. They have the eldest child who's like all on her own and dating Ashton Kutcher, and she's like, for most of the movie, annoyed with her family, just like Tom Welling, who from the moment we see him interact with his father is like annoyed with his father, just wants to be left alone. So, and that's how he is the whole fucking movie.
He's an angsty teenager. He was but you don't. That was the only relationship we saw, I think, on screen with him and any of the kids.
Yeah. So these are the relationships we get to see, and most of them are just like, you know, privileged assholes who are just so annoyed with their parents and like don't appreciate them.
Well, I feel like,
but it's the same beat over and over and over again. Like every time I see Tom Welling, he's just like a little piece of shit.
Yeah, well, in the character's defense here, though, like he made it pretty vocal that he didn't want to move from wherever they were in Idaho or Illinois. I don't know where it were, but it wasn't Chicago that they moved to. It was some other random city in Illinois. But it was like a big city.
Yeah.
Or a bigger city, or like a suburb or something. I don't know.
They live in Midland, and then they move to Evanston.
Right. They should have just said Chicago, where like I think we could have made the connection of just like, okay, it's a bigger city, different life. Instead they picked like a town I've never heard of. Sorry guys, if you're from Illinois listening, I'm not trying to shade you. I'm just saying.
We're from New Jersey.
Yeah.
We don't know Illinois.
Like you guys had no idea when I said go Montclair. Probably.
Exactly. Probably. Unless you watch Cheaper by the Dozen. I guess that's a defense point, but of course any kid, as all of them are like, no, I don't want to move. Like, who wants to move? You know?
Yeah.
But he, again, even before that though, it wasn't like, hey dad, let's go play catch. And then by moving their relationship became strained. Like, no, from the moment he tries to wake up his son is just like, leave me alone. Oh, God.
Which is stupid from a screenwriting point of view because he plays football and the dad coaches college football. So it's just like you would assume right there you have a source of tension here that you could like exploit as a screenwriter, but they chose not to.
Yep. And I mean, there were just so many moments that they were trying to go for outlandish comedy, like when he brings the football team to his house because, like you said, he can't afford a nanny and he has to coach his team and raise his kids at the same time, and it just none of it really works. I don't know. I mean, that was your turn. What's your nitpickies?
Well, that he can't afford a nanny was my biggest one. What's another one? I guess kind of the slapstick humor that they were kind of going, or borderline gross out humor. I think, it was kind of just like, I don't know, it felt like low-hanging fruit at times. And even, because I remember even thinking it back then when I was a teenager, of just like, wow, this is so corny. Like, it's just not even trying.
Yep.
And I think the only thing that resonated with me was the poor kid who was called FedEx, the ginger. He was, because he was like the outcast in this family of 12, which I get, let's be real. In a family of 12, there's bound to be one child that's an outcast,
Of course.
Not liked by anyone. And I think his was the only arc that I liked, despite the fact that I think the movie kind of like really, they kind of like resolved it too quickly, in my opinion.
They did.
You know
Absolutely.
what I mean? Like, it's just like, oh, he's lost and he's found. But like, there was no drama. I don't know. I guess I just kind of, they really focus also a lot of the kids' shenanigans, which I don't necessarily care for.
Yeah. We want to see more of the family dynamic, not just kids being silly. Like, oh, all these kids together are about to just create a ruckus.
And then the other thing is, I guess, I don't know, like, I think Bonnie Hunt, right? Yes? Yeah, Bonnie Hunt. Okay.
Bonnie Hunt.
And Steve Martin, they did have chemistry, but like it just wasn't shown enough on screen, in my opinion. Like, I could buy them as a couple raising 12 kids, but like, considering the source of tension was that she was gone and like he had to figure it out on his own, it's just like, I don't know. It just felt like, what? I don't know. The original Cheaper by the Dozen would never.
Yes.
You know?
Yes. Yeah, but I saw this before I saw the original Cheaper by the Dozen, which was just because maybe part of that sourness went into my watching the 1951, which is why I enjoyed it even more because I'm like, oh, this is nothing like it.
Yeah.
And they're doing everything much, much better. I guess the one thing that did work for me was that 2003 soundtrack with like, I'm just a kid and life is.
I don't like Simple Plan.
I hate that kind of music, but it's also like,
The right.
oh my
it
gosh,
felt like the
I
right one.
was 14 years old
Yeah.
when the song came out,
Yeah.
you know, like, and it's amazing how 2003, so this is a 19-year-old film, how much more aged this film seems than the 1951.
Oh, interesting. And I think accurate because I agree. Even like, you see the transitions and like some of the shots that we use when we're like entering the city, it all felt like so dated so quickly. I was just like, wow, like I'm watching a movie.
Completely dated.
It felt
Whereas
so
the
old.
1951 felt a little timeless.
Yeah, a little bit.
I mean,
agree
like
with you.
it's clearly an older film,
yeah.
but it didn't reek of like tropes that were like in transitions of the era or whatever.
Yep, I agree with you 100%. Oh, it's
I
so
don't know.
rare when we're like on the same page on this one, but
Yeah, I know this is weird, but
somebody accused
like,
me that I didn't do my
disagree
homework.
with me.
Well, all right. I'll disagree with you on this one. Well, I'm
Okay.
disagree with myself. As much as I didn't like the kids' shenanigans, some of the kids that were cast were so adorable, though, that, like, I thought they were, like, great. The twins in particular, I think they're so cute. I just want to just pinch their cheeks. They're so adorable. Who else? The girl who reminded me of Punky Brewster. I thought she was annoying. She's from the Missy Elliott video, I think. I could be mistaken about that, but I think she's that dancer girl.
Oh,
Is it worth it? You know, the Missy Elliott dancer girl?
I don't remember which child you're talking about.
The one who looked like Punky Brewster.
Yeah. See, this movie, was before my eyeballs for about 99 minutes. And then it left my memory completely.
Fair enough.
For the most part, other than the things that enraged me.
Yeah,
well, not enraged.
Yeah, that's
but,
about it. I don't know. Yeah, it's a forgettable movie. I had forgotten about it up until the fact that like we had to cover it for this podcast, and I was just like, I had to rewatch it because I was just like, I don't really remember this movie except I know that I didn't like it, and then I rewatched it. I was just like, this is why it was kind of just forgettable.
This is why, yeah.
It's just a forgettable.
It wasn't just like
movie.
you being like a kid who was like, "Oh, this movie's so stupid." Like, no, like you saw it
Yeah.
at a young age. I was like, "No, this isn't
Exactly.
a good movie."
But this movie, so despite its poor reviews, this movie killed in the box office
and got a fucking sequel.
And got a sequel, which I did not see. I know,
No.
like I remember that much.
I know Eugene Levy's in it.
Yeah. Yeah, I saw the poster.
Yeah.
It's like Eugene Levy and Steve Martin back to back. I don't know. I guess they're in a war with another family of 12 or something.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
We should watch it.
No.
We should hate
thank you.
watch it.
Maybe if I get high and watch it, it might make it bearable. But
Yeah, well, so you said it though right there. It killed at the box office, and everyone again, the title "Cheaper by the Dozen." By the way, we didn't mention why it's called "Cheaper by the Dozen." In the 1950 film, they explained where that comes from.
the name of the book.
The name of the book, and that
Oh,
whenever
and then
someone would see Frank Gilbert Sr. and be like, "You have 12 kids," and be like, "Don't you know they come cheaper by the dozen?" And that
Yeah.
was like his thing.
well, yeah, because the question is like, how do you feed them? It's like, well, things come cheaper by the dozen. Here, I think
Yeah.
they were just the Bonnie Hunt's character wrote a book named Cheaper by the Dozen. Outside of that, what connection do you see between this one and the 1950 film outside of the 12 kids? How is this a remake?
Yeah, seriously. I don't see any connection other than the fact that a book was written out of the life. But it took the fact that Cheaper by the Dozen is a book.
Right.
And they just utilized that in this new story. That's like literally the only thing I see. Maybe moving the family, but that they turned that more into a story.
Right.
Whereas that's just something that happens in the first 10 minutes of Cheaper by the Dozen. Also, the fact that like in 1950, the Clifton Webb father is an efficiency expert, and the title is "Don't You Know They Come Cheaper by the Dozen?" That now it makes sense why it's called that, right?
Right.
Why is this film called Cheaper by the Dozen?
Yeah.
It doesn't make any fucking sense. Why does she name it? Like, they don't make that joke at any point, nor are they the type of people that seem like they would make that kind of joke. Of course, that's me just being very nitpicky.
No, I don't. But I don't disagree with you because it's not like. Is that like a common euphemism? I know Baker's
by the
dozen,
dozen?
right? And that's why they changed the family name to Baker, right? They didn't even keep the family name.
That's sure they didn't even keep the family name.
Yeah, they did it.
So-
And a baker's dozen, here's the other thing. A baker's dozen is 13. So what are you guys trying to pull here?
Yeah, maybe there is going to be that's what Cheaper by the Dozen 2 is.
Oh my God, I hope not. Like Father of the
Seriously.
Bride 3.
Oh yeah, that's another Steve Martin movie, and that's probably why they put him in all these roles. He became a family
I love
typecast guy.
Father of the Bride.
It's a film remake, right?
Is it really? Oh, I didn't know that. I hope they remake it so we could cover it.
Yeah, I was actually thinking about that. They did like a big kind of like reunion thing of it.
Yeah, I remember.
In COVID.
During COVID.
Yeah.
But that was when we were depressed, I think. I don't even remember.
We didn't know the state of anything, so yeah, so that's that movie. Don't really have much else to say other than the fact that it did well enough that they were like, let's do it all over again.
Yeah, well, it had like a small budget and brought in like 140 million in the box office, so that's pretty good numbers.
That's true.
Yeah.
I wonder what this new film's budget was.
Too much.
I'm sure it was. If you don't know, Cheaper by the Dozen, new film version of it is available on Disney Plus. It will not be going to theaters. It's a Disney Plus exclusive.
Right.
This version of Cheaper by the Dozen is kind of more in line with the 2002 one.
Yeah, this
not
feels
the
more
1950
like a
or the book. Yeah.
Yeah.
But this has a script co-written by Kenya Barris and Jennifer Rice Genzuk Henry,
who are writers of Blackish and Grownish, and probably the spinoff also Halfish. There were three. There's three in that series. Is Blackish, Grownish, and then I think it's like Mixish. Something.
It's Mixedish.
It is Mixish?
Yes.
That's a terrible title. But yeah, it's a prequel. I'm giving you guys a history that you guys probably didn't even ask for, but it's a hit prequel to Grownish. It follows the mom's character's life.
Well, yes. So do you know anything about like the production history on this?
I know that it was in 2016 that they announced, 20th Century Fox announced that they were working with this writer from the Blackish series to write a Cheaper by the Dozen remake. During, I think it was like what? I forgot when the merger between 20th Century Fox and Disney took
2019.
place. Okay, so I think it was in 2019 when they announced that they're moving forward with this project Disney, and they brought in Gabrielle Union. She replaced who was the original cast, which I think was Regina Hall, who we might know her from like the Scary Movie series.
Mm-hmm. And the Oscar host on Sunday.
Oh, she's gonna be an Oscar host? That's weird.
She's one of the three. Yeah.
What? That's so okay. I love her. So
wait, you don't know about that?
I actually don't know anything about the Oscars. You keep telling me the nominees and I keep forgetting. So
there's three hosts: Regina Hall, Wanda Sykes, Amy Schumer.
I like Wanda Sykes also. Amy Schumer, I don't really know her humor that much. I don't watch her stuff, so I can't speak to it. But I do like Wanda Sykes' delivery. She has a good delivery for comedy. I feel like a lot of straight white men do not like her, but you know what? I guess her comedy's not for you. Deal with it. So all right, fine. I might give it. They're having three hosts. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I lost my train of thought. What were they?
Oh, yeah, Regina Hall was
replaced. Yeah, Regina Hall was replaced by Gabrielle Union. You know what, Regina? You probably dodged the bullet, to be honest. I think they started just trickling down the. I think Disney also in 2019 announced that this was going to be a Disney Plus exclusive for whenever Disney Plus launched, which I think was like a year later, and they were going to start production in 2020. Obviously, it got postponed because of COVID, and I don't think they picked up again until like late 2020. And now here we are, 2022. The movie has debuted, and Disney actually had been doing a lot of social media push on this, I know, because I've been getting a lot of marketing material from them on our social media accounts. And I don't, this is a big push for a movie that I don't think is like, I don't know, who asked for this?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It's so funny because we were talking about the 2002 one feeling dated. And the moment this movie started, I was like, oh man, this movie is gonna feel dated in like 2 years. Because it's just so trying to be
of its time.
Cool of its time.
Yeah.
Like it begins with a dated Beyonce song.
Yeah,
Which if I'm
super
being
dated.
nitpicky. Yeah, at this point, it's like I've heard Love on Top and like a million other things.
Which
like, really?
This is also not one of my favorite Beyonce songs. That whole era of Beyonce, I wasn't a fan of. That's like Halo, also, right? That came out in that same album. I wasn't. I don't dig
no,
it.
Halo was before, but
Was
still,
it?
I know. Yeah, it was
Didn't-
the album before.
Wasn't a fan of Halo, and
I mean, Lemonade is her masterpiece.
oh yeah, no, agreed.
And now that Beyonce has like risen past her own level, like we should not revisit those. We should just stay at those Beyonce.
I wonder if
levels.
Disney
Anyway,
got a break on the music rights because she did that movie with Disney that was a Disney Plus exclusive, Black is King.
Oh yeah, true.
So maybe
that's a good point.
maybe that's why this was part of the contract, being like, you will put a Beyonce song in at least one film per month that released exclusively to Disney Plus.
It could be that. Beyonce was a smart choice, I guess, because this one is a blended family.
Yes.
And you want to set the tone off right, and it's like, oh well, what black artist does a lot of white people know, and it's Beyonce.
Did you ever see that Saturday Night Live skit?
Yes, I love that
It's
skit.
such a good skit when Beyonce turned black, right?
Yeah, when white people realized that
Beyonce's
Beyonce was
black.
black
It's such
and
a
they
good
just like
skit.
lost their shit.
But yeah, no, to your point, yes, 100%. A lot of white people do enjoy Beyonce.
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't make the generalizations.
Everybody
all
enjoys
know this.
Beyonce.
Yes.
For the most part, everybody. She's for all of us, guys. They worked that poor girl to the bone to not have everyone enjoy her.
Yeah.
So again, blended family. They kept the bakers thing.
Yeah.
And then they made it a little bit more literal this time, where they're bakers.
That's
they
also true.
own a breakfast all day spot.
I didn't even realize that, but yeah, you're right. Like, they're bakers.
Yeah. Instead of doing the whole college football coach, they decided that they should give a more realistic job to their awkward male dad in this one, played by Zach Braff, who's Paul Baker.
I don't know.
I think in the last one he was Tom, but
I don't remember Steve Martin. But is that a more realistic job? Because being a restaurateur and having 12 children doesn't seem realistic. Not in 2022. Let me tell you that much.
Well, I was watching it and I was like, how much is this being paid by her ex-husband's money?
Good question.
But then when they moved to Calabasas, based on like him getting some sort of promotion, it completely lost me in sense of, feasibility.
It wasn't a promotion.
But again,
it was an investment.
An investment, right? Well, what kind of fucking investment did he get that happened? I just but it was also like, why am I thinking too much about this?
Yeah,
This is a stupid
movie that
movie.
requires a lot of thought. But to your point, Gabrielle Union's character was married to a ex-football player. And she was kind of fast tracking through this, like, it was a semi-glamorous life. However, it became a lonely life for her, and that's the reason why she ended up divorcing. So this is a mixed family in the sense that, like, it's very Brady Bunchish. I think they both came in with like at least 3 or 4 children, and then together they conceived like another 4.
Yes,
And then there'll be like another one added into the mix to create the dozen.
Yeah, they have 11, and then there's one to make it a dozen, and then there's also an adopted child, because when Zach Braff was with his first wife, played by Erica Christensen, a name we don't ever talk about anymore.
I knew she looked familiar, but I could not put a name to it. What is she? What do I know her from?
Well, her big thing, I remember she was in Traffic when it came out. She was also in that movie Swim Fan.
Oh, there we go. Say no more. I know Swim Fan.
Banger Sisters, right? So like early, like, again, Cheaper by the Dozen era, where it was like, if you were watching like the movies made for teenagers, she was gonna be like a big star, and I guess she wasn't. I'm so sorry, Erica Christensen, if you're listening to this. I still think you're a good actress. Anyway, when they were together, his best friend died, and then he had to adopt his son,
Right.
and so that's one of the storylines, and that's Haresh Baker.
Right.
So they have kids with multiple different identities, and this is one of the things that the film tries to tackle. And again, at least it plans things that it tries to at least deliver on, and yet they fall flat on certain things. And my biggest complaint is the handling of Haresh in that way. I would say.
Fair enough. I mean, I don't. I applaud the film for, going out of its way to try to incorporate other identities. However, it did feel a little far fetched, and also it's just like you already. This couple already had 4 kids, I think, or 3 kids at this point. So it's just like, do we? I don't know. I feel like at what point do Child Protective Services come in and be like, "This is too much. Stop."
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
I don't know if I agree in the sense that I'm not gonna applaud them because especially in Haresh's case, don't throw a kid in there if you're not going to tell his story properly.
That's what I say. It's like it's fine. You tried, but like you didn't do anything with it. Like his
you just threw him there as a prop.
Yeah, like your story, like his main storyline as a character was like like you know, his identity doesn't matter. So why
exactly?
Why bring in this?
That's problem for me. Yeah, because I felt insulted for him and for anyone who would look to this story and think, oh, maybe in any way, right? Whether it's like I can identify with being like Haresh, or I can identify with the fact that I'm an orphan and like I had to be brought into a foster family or something like that. Neither of those ways did they ever divulge into his story.
Right.
His story becomes more so befriending the
new
nephew?
member.
Yeah, the
cousin.
new member, the like the honorary family, and like, oh, blood isn't necessarily thicker than water aspect of the story, which is also like, did we need to add that because you already established something here that you just completely ignored?
Right. Yeah.
And like he's just like this happy kid.
Yeah.
You know, who's like great and doesn't have any fucking issues or identity crises.
What do you know? He's getting bullied because he's a nerd.
That's different though. That's like pretty like average problems. Whereas like the situation that kid believes has found himself in, there's like stuff that he would be going through that they don't explore.
That's true. I agree.
And
with
they
you.
explore every other person of color in that family's identity except his.
That's a good point. I think, and it's
fucked up.
Yeah, let's bring that up. So they put race is important in this film, which is a lot in a way that a lot more than I thought Disney would ever really, I don't know, do. I guess like I don't know. It didn't feel. I don't know how to say. I'm just saying this like it's just like I don't know. It felt. I hate to use the term, but it did feel woke. But it wasn't like I'm not saying it wasn't. I mean, it was a little preachy, but it wasn't like I don't know. It was a little organic in the way they kind of like approach these subjects. I think specifically for me, I think the moment that kind of struck a nerve, that I thought was kind of honest and sincere, was when the biological father gets into it with Zach Braff's character, and they say it's like just because you adopted them, like does not mean that you know the Black experience. And I actually kind of agree with that because I you know. In my plans for adoptions and stuff, I think one of the things that I personally have to reckon with is like, am I ready to adopt, for example, a Black child? It's not because I don't want a Black child. It's because I would feel so helpless in helping him navigate that Black experience, right? Because the Latino experience is a very different one from the Black experience. And it's just like, I don't know if I would be like obviously I try to be the best parent there, but like, you know what I mean? It's a hard thing to really, really grapple when you don't have that kind of experience, right? So you can only, speak to it from like a theoretical point of view. So I think that conversation felt sincere and honest. And I thought that's why, it came off a little preachy, but I saw at the same time I think like, yeah, but it's kind of a true thing,
Yes. I mean, like I said, they planted some stuff that they did kind of deliver on, but there was, you could tell what they were comfortable talking about and what they weren't, and or at least what they had like not like the hit, like what they knew that they could expand upon, right? What they could bring to the story and the things that they wanted to say. But then there were other things that they threw in there that they didn't expand upon, and then the Haresh thing is the biggest one. I think that this whole storyline between the two fathers, because, the other mother is there, but she's, like, made a joke out of.
Yeah, she's like a nanny almost.
Yeah. Was, like, had actually, towards the end, it really tried to make it more, like, dramatic. And, like, there's, like, a reason to this antagonistic, figure that he plays. But it doesn't start off that way. And it's, like, hard to watch, them go through this absurdist musical number in the school gym and then take them seriously, like, less than an hour later. So it's just like kind of interesting choices for that development.
Yes.
And also, I don't know, like I don't really see what Gabrielle Union would see in Zach Braff. I mean, like, whatever. Zach Braff, I'm sure, is like attractive in his own way.
He's
but
thin,
and
he can wear like. I think when you're that thin, you can like pull
Maybe.
off a lot of fashion.
Well, apparently he can fit into a 18-year-old girl's jeans. But
the dream, you know.
But it was also more so their chemistry I thought was kind of lacking. I didn't feel it.
I agree with you. I don't think they had. I don't know. Their chemistry wasn't like electrifying on screen.
Yeah,
and I don't know. Like it's just like,
they were supposed to be though the anchors of the movie, and when that isn't like I didn't feel like I was in safe waters.
Yeah.
I will say that what they tried to do with Deja is what they tried to do with the Tom Welling character in the 2002 film, but they did that at least better because when Deja starts off, she's a different person from who she becomes, or at least the struggles that she goes through.
Yeah, she gets influenced.
And I was like, oh, they got it right.
Yeah,
she got and was just becoming a fucking teenager. And I was like, okay, at least they improved that.
Yeah, agreed. I will say that I'm trying to think. You threw me off when you said Deja because now I'm thinking of Drag Race. Sorry.
I know. The moment that I found out that character's name was Deja, I'm like, oh my god, and she just won a challenge.
Oh, I remember her brother.
I'm just thinking.
So I actually think I will give this movie this also. I think they did a good job of kind of like showing you scenes of the family interacting as a unit, individual, like with some of the kids individually. For example, Zach Braff having to deal with the nerdy kid. I'm sorry, I don't remember his name. I don't remember any of the kids' names. There's 12 of them. I can't even remember.
Is it Dom?
Maybe. Is that the other biological child of the other character?
I think it's Dom. Okay. Yeah, Deja and Dom.
Yeah, so he's like a nerd, right? And he doesn't know how to get the girl, so he asks his stepfather for advice because he has more in common with the stepfather. He's kind of like awkward, gawky, weird. He can't approach his biological dad, who's like a superstar on the football field and like handsome and like athletic, right? And I thought that was sweet. I thought handled cute. I like those kind of moments. I felt like manufactured Disney shit, but it worked for me.
Yeah. I liked the Dom. Him like being true to who he was, and these kids were a little bit more fleshed out than the 2003 one. Some, not all. The added kid was the nephew.
Yeah. Like
that really didn't work for me.
I agree with you. I don't think we needed it. It's just like, why? I don't know. Cause for example, he starts off like stealing at first, like, right. He's like, we see he's stealing from the family diner, and then he stops because like his father, his uncle gave him like a wad of cash that the state turns out is giving him because his mom is in rehab. I don't know how that worked out and stuff, but I don't know. It was just like, did we need? Because he's the one that he's also the ending, right? He runs away, and the family has to come together to save him. And,
where the hell did he even go?
I thought it was like a crack den or something.
Me too. I was like, but who lives there?
Right, his mom's boyfriend, maybe.
Yeah, I was gonna say because if that was his mom, Zach Braff's sister,
well, she's in rehab though, so
way to help her. I guess he just went back to his empty house or whatever.
Yeah. But he said bye to someone, his crew, I think, or something. I don't know. It was not very well thought out, and also and then the random characters at the end who are also like seeing this moment. It's just like, what is terrible.
Going on here? This isn't funny.
This is not good.
Also, it's like if you guys stick together throughout all like tough times, then where's his mom at? Where's the support from this guy who could apparently afford a house in Calabasas?
Yes. Oh, I don't think they were in Calabasas.
Why is she living in a? Well, yeah, no, they moved from LA to Calabasas.
Oh no, but the kid wasn't from Calabasas.
No, that's why I'm saying her brother. Okay, so this woman who's addicted to crack and lives in a ghetto or whatever.
We're saying
her brother
crack.
lives in Calabasas.
Yeah.
We don't know. Like her brother can afford to help her out and get her back on her feet. I mean, come on, like the whole message there is, blood sometimes isn't thicker than water or whatever. Family's got your back no matter what. And yet, she's just not getting any help from anybody.
Well, we don't know.
We don't know that
rehab
help.
is not cheap. Like, no, I mean, that's not even being funny. Like, rehab is not free.
It really is not.
So, like, I don't, who cares? We're getting into the weeds on this movie.
And we are, because that's also like when the movie has enough time for me to wonder about these things and kind of hold it against the movie's not working.
Right. No, I agree. I also thought that the Barbie dolls, as they referred to them, the two blonde ladies who are the investors, I thought they were going to introduce a little more conflict in like trying to seduce him.
Oh.
And
yeah.
like kind of introduce that element of conflict. I don't know if the movie needed it because it was shockingly a lot happening, right? Like
it's the longest film.
The main source of tension here was the fact that he was that his restaurant recipe, because he created a sauce that is spicy, sweet, and savory all at the same time, depending on what you pair it with. I want to know what that magical sauce is, but
Me too.
he found an investor who wants to then also franchise his restaurant, and now he's just traveling trying to find real estate for it, and it's kind of causing a division with the family because like his wife thought that this was something that they built together, and now he's kind of like, selling out a little. And this is where the main source of tension between the families. So I think this is like out of the 3 films, this is the only one where like we actually see that the relationship isn't like all picture perfect. I mean, yeah. You can say that about the Bonnie Hunt and Steve Martin one, right? Like we know that they weren't perfect people, but like their relationship wasn't like rocky at any point.
True.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, he just kind of like took the whole her not being there burden on by himself, whereas she was clearly struggling and needed him to get back to the house and like, do his job as a parent of 11 children. Co-parent of 11 children.
Yeah.
And like that also shows like, how much it is to handle. Like one kid is trying to sneak out and the other one got suspended from school, and just like they're all going through shit, and she can barely keep it together.
Yeah. And then the other thing
but even then it didn't I don't know, I'm sorry, I just wanted, maybe it was her acting, but I was also like this, I feel like she's just more comedically annoyed than like actually struggling.
I would agree with you. Yeah. I mean,
so
it was, I felt like for me, her best scenes were when she had to deal with the white woman with the microaggressions. I think those were her stronger scenes, and obviously because like, I think they're just like, who doesn't like to see a white woman being microaggressive, right? And just really, I enjoy those scenes because it's just like, yeah, white people can be microaggressive.
Yeah. It's Cheaper by the Dozen. Thanks for showing us that.
Thank you for showing your young, impressionable audience. I'll give this movie one shout out. Is the only movie to reference RuPaul, so props.
True. Oh my gosh, I did feel like some of those like those kids being like funny in terms of like either Gen Z or millennial humor were also just not landing for me.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you.
I don't know. It was kind of trying too hard, and on some ways it worked, in some ways it didn't. I don't think I'm a target audience, so I think that there are things that, maybe because it wasn't even meant for me, or it wasn't something that I can 100% relate to, that, I'm not going to like overly like criticize any of that. But who is this movie for?
Yeah, exactly. Like who, like, because we're all right. Here's let's put some things into perspective here. We're in the year 2022 of our Lord, and you're telling me that anyone in our age group wants to have 12 kids? Like, this is a generation that right now is holding off on having kids for mostly financial reasons, right? So I don't know. I think on some level, maybe this film felt for me a little tone deaf. It's just like we are like in the middle of a fucking, and Disney could not predict a war, obviously, but like we're like in the pandemic. You know what I mean? It's just like. And the gap between the rich and the poor is the biggest we've seen since I think the 1920s, which is ironically the one where the first film was trying to depict. So I don't know. It's just like it does feel a little tone deaf to show me a film about like a family trying to navigate 12 kids. It's just like that's a burden. Like I'm looking at that movie. I say this, but I'm not necessarily joking. It's just like this seems terrible for these kids. Like, there are no winners in this. Like, you cannot tell me that, like, 12 kids living in one household is something that we should be looking at like, oh my God, that's great. I love that. It's like, no, like, that's not, like, not realistically for, like, these poor kids are probably impoverished in real life if we were talking about, you know what I mean? And it's just like, it's kind of, I don't know. Like, I don't know. Maybe I'm thinking, maybe it's just the state of the economy where, or at least from my impression of the state of the economy. And when I say the economy, I don't mean like necessarily like, you know, the market. I'm talking about like literally like how much people are making and like trying to like live off of by. Like, it's just like, this seems unrealistic, and it's just like, not like, why are we depicting this fantasy? Why?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, it's interesting because both of these films kind of need to have either someone related to the family or one of the parents become like kind of famous in order for them to like plausibly live the lifestyle that they live.
Yep.
You know, which wasn't something that the original film did. But I think also the original film had the benefit of telling a story from years before and not be like, we're making a social commentary.
That's true.
Because that's what the two Disney films try and do. And I think that like Disney needs to learn its fucking lesson at this point, because we all see through Disney's bullshit at this point. I mean, we all...
Disney didn't do the second one. That was 20th Century Fox.
Okay.
I'm just saying. I know you like your facts.
Thank you. No, thank you. I appreciate that. But particularly to the 2022.
Absolutely, for the
like,
like Disney is responsible.
Yeah, and it's like, oh no, we all know what you fucking signed off on in Florida recently. We know who's heading.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, and like you're trying to like pull this shit out of your ass and like pretend like, but then it's also like, you're absolutely right. Tone deaf is the right word, because it's like, no, actually Disney, like, you're not producing things that people not only want to see, but you're not even saying anything right. And you're just completely ignorant to what is actually going on in this country and what people are actually experiencing. And it makes me angry, because I'm like, am I supposed to like want to live this life, or am I supposed to resonate with this? Because I don't want to live this life. I don't want to be as ignorant of these assholes. And didn't we just like cover something recently, which was like, oh, it's not cool to be rich anymore?
Gotham? Batman?
No.
I
feel like that was like, I think I saw something where people actually like had anxieties about like not wanting to appear to be
Fresh Prince of Bel-Air?
Yes
Duh. That was
literally last week. Yeah, but that's the thing, like, he's running for city council, but he lives in a fucking mansion. Nobody can resonate with you, dude.
Yeah
Nobody lives like that anymore. We're all struggling out here. Man. Like, who wants to fucking see this bullshit?
Do you think, like, this, obviously we're just two struggling Hispanic in New Jersey, you know? So this is just
one
really
of the
our point of
states.
view. But no. But I'm just saying, it's like, do you think that maybe we're just becoming angrier at like the portrayal of like these like kind of like nonsensical lives that like we would never relate to? You know what I mean?
Oh, 100%.
Like,
yes.
Even Fresh. So Bel-Air, I could take that as full fantasy, and I can accept it as that. But, you know, again, to your point, it's just like, but like, you know, if we had to like look at it with like real eyes, it's like tone deaf, absolutely tone deaf,
absolutely.
And like Uncle Phil should not be running for local DA, not in with his lifestyle, because a person to live in a mansion like that and to be rich, usually have some skeletons in your closet. Usually there's something shady. So, you know.
Well, yeah, shady politicians, that resonates. But I guess the one thing I will say is that I like a balance. You know, I'll take a good fantasy of representation of lives if you actually give me something that I can look at and identify as real and valid. And the amount of shit that we cover on this podcast that is the opposite of real and valid is definitely, I think, taking a toll on us.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I mean, I would love if we didn't do it, maybe a listener out there somewhere took a statistic of the amount of times that we, you know, were left kind of more jaded and unhappy with something than we're left happy. Because I think the statistics would show, if we were to kind of like to go back and see, that more than often we probably are disappointed, right? And we're more often like criticizing these things because we also feel like we're trying to be targeted here, and the things that they're trying to target within us is not working for us, right?
Right.
They're trying to start a conversation and a dialogue with us, and we're saying, fuck you, you don't know me. And I definitely think that's also why, Rolando and I saw each other over the weekend. He said that he's kind of over movies. I actually also think that that's maybe why you're over movies.
Maybe.
Is especially from doing this for so long and just having to watch things that were almost trying to after watching so many of these movies, sometimes I downright even try to feel like people are trying to manipulate me.
Right.
Like, don't lie to me. Don't manipulate me.
Well, this is why I was told as a young kid is like the reason critics give so many bad reviews because they see so much stuff and they become so jaded so quickly. And like here we are, 3 years in, it's just like, oh, I see it now. Yeah.
Yeah. We're gonna reach our 4th anniversary soon.
Oh God. Can you believe?
Yeah, hip hip hooray. But I don't know. Do you have anything else to say?
Yeah. Do you think this movie was needed? I think we know.
No.
Yeah, neither do I. There we go. Short and sweet, guys.
Let's not even get into it. The whole episode was the reason why it wasn't needed.
Fair enough. But have you guys seen Cheaper by the Dozen? The original one, the 2002? 2012. 2003 version, or the 2022. Let us know. Hit us up on Instagram. Our handle is Remakes, Reboots, Revivals. You can also find us on Facebook.com/Remakes, Reboots, Revivals. You can also listen to previous episodes there. And send us an email, guys. We'd love to hear from you. Our email is remakesrebootsrevivals@gmail.com. And be sure to visit our website where we have all the episodes that you can't find on your podcast app. That's www.remakesrebootsrevivals.com. We also have a hotline for you. Nicole, take it away.
That number is 862-248-2326. One more time, 862-248-2326.
Yes. Leave us a voicemail. We want to hear from y'all.
And also, leave us a voicemail leaving your ranking of the Cheaper by the Dozens. Mine is at the top 1950, and tied for last is the 21st century versions. What about yours?
It was 1950, then the 2022, and then the 2003.
Wow. Yeah, I would probably agree with that one.
I mean,
too.
I'm not. I mean, I don't care. I don't think I cared for any of them, to be honest. Right?
True. Yeah. I mean, when your favorite is the 1950 one, that to me is a win.
Right.
But I know that it's not like you're going to be like, guys, you have to go see Cheaper by the Dozen of the 1950. It was so good.
Right.
I know you're not going to be having that conversation.
Yeah.
But if it's someone's cup of tea, then maybe you can recommend it to your grandma.
Okay. Do that, guy.
Well, on that note, stay unoriginal.